Chapter 12 Love Conquers All. About 70 years ago, in a town called Anantapur in Madhya Pradesh, there was a gentleman called Kundalji. His wife's brother had left home and was rumored to have become a sannyasi. Kundalji's wife Avantibai was sad for her brother. When she heard that a Mahatma was doing tapasya in a nearby forest and was not well, believing him to be her lost brother, she went there along with her husband. She found the Mahatma, our Gurudev, sitting serenely under a tree. Though she at once realized that this was not her brother, yet she was sad at the thought that wherever he may be, her brother too must be enduring such hardships to lead the life of a sannyasi. Reading her thoughts, Gurudev said, "Sister, you can treat me as your lost brother." At these endearing words, her sorrow was forgotten, and she requested Gurudev to visit her home. The saint replied with a sweet smile, "Thank you so much. At the moment I am quite comfortable where I am, but I will certainly visit you one day." Next, Gurudev, during his travels, happened to meet Avantibai's mother, Sundarbai, and he consoled her thus, "Ma, please feel free to treat me as your own son." He further acceded to her request that as a part of the sacred duties of a son, he would attend her last rites on her death. Believing this relationship to be true and sanctified, all the children of Avantibai used to call Gurudev as Mamaji. Once, while in Anantapur, Gurudev had gone to the adjacent deep forest and he saw a ferocious tiger advancing towards him. He faced the beast fearlessly and ordered him to turn around and leave Anantapur. He then told Kundalji, Kakaji, to go and have a look at the tiger if he wished. Kakaji was scared of wild animals. He declined but requested Gurudev to teach him the mantra which would have the power to tame all ferocious creatures. Pujya Shri admonished him in a solemn tone, "Forget about it. Siddhis cannot be entrusted to worldly people. For sadhus like us, there is no difference between a pet dog and a tiger. Truly it is said, unto the pure all things are pure." Jai Shri Ram.
Chapter 13 Ram Bhakti spreads in Saurashtra. Once, Gurudev was camping in Ramnik Ashram on the river bank near Rajkot. Wagji Bhai, a social worker and devotee of Gurudev, came over to him on hearing this news and brought Gurudev to the ashram that he conducted for the benefit of saints. This was called the Wagji Ashram then. Pujya Shri's daily sadhana routine lasted for 3 hours in the morning and evening. After completing the sadhana, Gurudev made the devotees happy and kept them busy with his learned discourses on Ramayana, which he delivered with simple lucidity in his own inimitable manner. With his wide, deep, scholarly and exhaustive studies and the way he delivered his discourses, the people became ecstatic with joy and unmindful to the passage of time. Prior to this time, so far as Saurashtra was concerned, the extent and efforts made on propagation of Ram Bhakti were negligible. Only a few sadhus had delivered such public discourses on Ramayana. At that time, Gurudev followed the rule of not staying for more than 2 days at any one spot, So on the third day, he left for Manekwada. There he met several Jagirdars and Darbars, and at their insistence, he initiated them as disciples. With simple yet hard-hitting discourses, denouncing all evil ways, he was able to make his listeners to give up their bad habits and addictions. People noticed yet another strange characteristic in him. While they sat around him, waiting patiently for their turn to seek solutions to their knotty problems, without even speaking with Gurudev, the solution would occur to them, as though by telepathy. The magnetic personality of Gurudev made all who met him feel serenity and joy, and of being nearer to God. Some even experienced a state of sustained ecstasy. Like the fragrance of roses, his saintly personality made his name and fame spread far and wide in Saurashtra. And chanting of Ram Nam and reading and listening to Ram Katha became more and more popular in towns and villages alike. In order to make Ramayana more popular, Gurudev devised a novel method, that of conducting Antakshari, wherein the basic condition for the participants was that only couplets from Ramayana could be recited. With the growing popularity of this program, some enthusiastic people learnt the whole Ramayana by heart, and they could recite any couplet from that sacred book. Once the well-known Ramayankar Binduji came to Rajkot, and he remarked about Gurudev. If anyone knew the art of becoming Narayan from Nar, it was Shri Ranchoddasji Maharaj, who has propagated Ramayana among the common people to the maximum possible extent. Jai Shri Ram. Chapter 14. Relaxation and Rules to Please the Devotees. Whenever Gurudev came to Saurashtra, he would meet the Darbar of Bhadwa, who was among his favourites. Once Dinubai had come from Gondal to have darshan at Bhadwa. He requested Pujya Shri to come to Gondal, and for the journey he had brought along a car. When the delegation of devotees from Gondal asked the Bhadwa Darbar about Gurudev's food preferences and his other routine needs, the Darbar replied with a smile. His diet is frugal, and his needs are meager, because he does all his work, including cooking, himself. Therefore you have no need to worry about him. Next day, he politely declined the use of a car, and Gurudev started on foot with bare feet for Gondal in his own inimitable style. Seeing his Guru walking thus, the Darbar of Bhadwa also walked with bare feet up to the village boundary to see him off. In Gondal, Pujya Shri stayed in one of the rooms in Akshar Mandir. One devotee, Shri Hari Bhai, was so much impressed by this that he took formal diksha with his whole family. One Ravi Shankar Bhai was already initiated in Pushti Marg, but did not feel comfortable about it, asked Gurudev whether he could be given diksha once again. Gurudev said, "Why not? Let alone Pushti Margis. I have even initiated the Yavanas." However, while giving him the diksha, Gurudev gave him the Krishna mantra, so as to suit his former natural inclination. After all, both Sri Krishna and Sri Ram are same, the incarnations of Sri Vishnu. Gurudev did not believe in narrow compartments of caste, creed or cult. According to him, humanism was of prime importance. His mission in life was to make man more and more human and compassionate. He used to say, "The goal of all religions is one and the same, though the paths towards the goal may be diverse and numerous." With the view to ensure that Gurudev could stay at one permanent place and do his sadhana in solitude and tranquility, one of the devotees, Shri Ravi Shankar Bhai, had purchased a plot of land. But he became sad when he learnt that it was near the railway line and the passing trains would disturb Gurudev's samadhi. When Pujya Shri heard of this, he asked, "What is your idea of samadhi?" When a true sadhak reaches that stage, he attains the supreme state of being one with the Brahman, the Supreme Being, unmoved by and totally immune to all outer happenings. The Darbar of Bhadwa was upset that while he slept on soft beds, his Gurudev should sleep on hard ground. To ease his mind, he got prepared a simple quilt and a pillow for Gurudev's use on his next visit to his place. At his adoring insistence, and merely with a view so as not to make him unhappy, Gurudev acceded to this minor deviation from his Spartan rules. When the other devotees came to know of this relaxation, they too insisted that he should accept minor comforts like shawl, chappal, and a car for his journey instead of padyatra. Gurudev merely said, "This body is yours. Keep it as you like." These minor relaxations in his code and use of articles of bodily comfort to please his devotees did not affect his Vikrat mind, which remained as detached as ever from bodily pleasures and pains. Common people are like milk, which gets affected by contact with water. Contrary to this, the true saints are like navnit, butter, which, having gone through mature transformation, does not at all get affected by contact with water. This, as the scriptures say, is the acid test of a real saint. Jai Shri Ram. Chapter 15. Sadguru's Name Shields from All Calamities. Dinu Bhai had gone to serve in Africa with Gurudev's blessings. When he wished to return to India, the Second World War was raging with full ferocity. Failing to get regular berth in a steamer, he was obliged to travel by an Arab cargo ship driven by sails. Relying on the Arab's estimation of wind speed, he wired his family in Gondal that he would reach home on the 12th day. It was a convoy of 4 ships. On Dinubhai's ship, there were 150 passengers. During their journey, the entire convoy of ships got caught up in a vicious cyclonic storm, and the other 3 ships sank. Now, fearing for his life, Dinubhai started chanting Gurudev's name. As if by a miracle, the storm subsided, yet their difficulties were not yet over. Their ship was short of drinking water, and the passengers were sure to die of thirst. Once again, Dinubhai prayed to Gurudev for salvation. As if in answer to his prayers, suddenly a gentle cooling breeze began to flow, assuaging their thirst to some extent. Then the wind took a reverse turn and pushed the ship towards Aden. Dinubhai thought, God's and Gurudev's ways are inexplicable. He uttered a silent prayer of thanks, giving because he was convinced that it was Gurudev's benign intervention and blessing which had saved him twice from sure death. It was immaterial that he landed at the port of Aden and not Okha. After 3 days, the ship re-embarked on its journey to India. In the interim period, when Dinubai failed to reach home as scheduled, his family was extremely worried. The grief-stricken parents left Gondal for Rajkot to seek solace from Gurudev, who was camping in Wagji ashram. When they met Pujya Shri, they said with tearful eyes, "Bapu, 22 days have passed without any news of Dinu." Gurudev told Dinubai's mother in compassionate voice, "Ma, do not worry. Your Dinu is safe and will land at Okha tomorrow morning." This prediction proved true, and after landing, Dinubai went straight to Rajkot for darshan. Before Dinubai could utter a single word, Gurudev said, "Welcome, Dinu. You had to undergo a lot of hardships and bear the agony of thirst, and reached Aden instead of Okha. Am I right?" Speechless at Gurudev's omniscience, Dinubai prostrated himself in grateful pranam. No wonder Sri Shankaracharya-ji has said in Maniratnam, "If one wishes to cross over this vast and fearful ocean of existence, he must surrender himself onto the feet of his Gurudev, which alone can procure his salvation." Thus, it is no wonder that Dinubai's chanting of Gurudev's name and surrendering himself at his feet saved his life. After all, our worldly ocean is far easier to cross than a Bhav Sagar, as mentioned by Sri Shankaracharya. Jai Shri Ram. Chapter 16. Benign Influence of a Saint. As ordinary teak, if stored for some time with sandalwood, acquires fragrance, similarly Satsang, or virtuous company, can reform even the evil and addicted people. Kanubai Kotecha had fallen in bad company with all evil addictions. His uncle brought him to Gurudev, and he requested Gurudev to give him kanti, formal initiation, so that he would renounce his addictions and the uncle could have some peace of mind. Gurudev agreed, and after tying the kanti, he looked at Kanubai with piercing eyes and said, "Within 3 months you must stop smoking. This will be my Guru Dakshina." Thus Gurudev could detect Kanubhai's addiction, which was not even known to his uncle, within a few seconds of meeting him. With his penetrating gaze, he could glean vices as well as virtues. He had such a powerful memory that he would never forget a person and would know all about him. If such a person came even once for darshan and performed pranam. He could describe events of the past and future very vividly, as if they were happening now in the present right in front of his eyes. Such yogis possess trikal-darshi powers, that of knowing the past, the present, and the future. Thus, moved by Gurudev's omniscience, Kanubhai thought that the 3 months' time was too long and surrendered his packet of cigarettes at Gurudev's feet right then and there. Later, it was the turn of his second vice, gambling. Gurudev told him, "Kanu, you may continue to speculate in features, but do it openly, not by stealth. If anyone asks you, tell him my Gurudev's orders." He further added for his benefit, "But remember this. In God's kingdom, retribution may be delayed, but it will surely come one day." So far, we have not heard of any guru openly ordering his disciple to gamble, but in this case, perhaps, as events later proved, set a thief to catch a thief was the maxim used by Gurudev. Finally, this produced desired result. Now Kanubhai openly played features. At times, while he was sitting at home for dinner, news would be received. Police have raided our adda and arrested several employees. Now Gurudev's prophetic words about God's punishment kept on repeating themselves in Kanubhai's mind. On deep introspection he realized that it was sheerly by virtue of Guru Kripa that he was saved from the police net, because so far he was always away when the raids occurred. He resolved to give up this dangerous and evil habit, and at the very spot where he speculated in features, he started the reputable business of Sadhana Lodge, and devoted himself wholeheartedly to the works of social welfare. After Kanubhai's example, none can deny Gurudev's reformative powers of transforming vice-infested persons into God-fearing citizens. Like the touchstone Parasmani, transforming base metal to pure gold, the saint doth reform the former evildoers. Jai Shri Ram. Chapter 17. Founding of Shri Sadguru Sadan. Prabhudas Bhai Pujara had his business in Karachi and had further opened a branch in Calcutta, whereby he prospered further. While on a visit to Rajkot, he heard about Gurudev's saintly nature and went to Wagji ashram for darshan. Gurudev asked him straightaway, "When did you leave Calcutta?" Being astonished by such clairvoyance, he immediately became a devout follower and offered generous help in building a larger ashram premises, which was essential to accommodate saints who had started visiting in greater numbers. The devotees insisted for Gurudev's presence at the time of inauguration, and he came as requested and wished to start the ashram with a Ram Yagna. The weather indicated rains and interruption in the yagna. Devotees pointed at the gathering dark clouds and expressed their fears. Gurudev stared at the sky and said, "Do your job and depart." As if in obedience, after a slight drizzle the skies cleared, and the yagna was completed as per schedule. There was an acute water shortage in the ashram. The well was dry and they had to rely entirely on the tiny stream at the back of the ashram. Pujya Shri gazed at the stream and said, "Stay till the task is completed." During 9 days of the yagna, thousands of sadhus and their needy had their food and water, yet that meager stream was able to supply all their requirement of water. Even today, the founding day of the ashram and Gurudev's Punya Tithi are celebrated over there, and the ashram is known as Shri Ranchoddasji's ashram and provides sadhu seva all the year round. Truly, the saints love God's creation more than the Creator himself. Jai Shri Ram. Chapter 18. Reformation of People. Sanjeev Bhai, a Rajkot advocate, was a gambling addict. His obsession obliged him to rise in court at 5 p.m. sharp and tell the judge, "Please adjourn my case to the next day. I must go now." The judge, knowing his weakness, indulged him. He would go straight to the gymkhana and begin with billiards or tennis. But by 9 p.m., as if drawn by a magnet, he would reach the gambling table and start gambling. Fate had made him a perennial loser. When at last he was facing complete financial ruin, God provided a means for his salvation. On one Sunday, when the courts are closed, Sanjeev happened to pass by Gurudev's ashram, along with a friend. He decided to pay a brief visit. While he was there, Gurudev was also present and was giving his discourse to devotees. Prior to having Gurudev's darshan, they washed up at the well and sat at the back of the crowd, waiting for completion of the pravachan. No sooner they sat down, as if on a queue, Gurudev started preaching against the evils of gambling and said gambling not only ruins the addict, it also ruins his family, and the same is true about wine. At these words, Sanjeev felt extreme embarrassment and felt that the preaching was addressed to him because Gurudev had read his mind. He thought he surely must be a Siddha who can thus read my mind. Gurudev proceeded further and talked about leather goods. He said, leather is an impure substance and pollutes the body particles of the user of leather goods. In contrast, those refraining from the use of leather will be more healthy due to the purity of their body particles. Sanjeev, who listened with rapt attention, realized that the headband of his cap was of leather, and as soon as he got out, he discarded his cap. Strangely, though he had been in the ashram since 1 p.m. and it was 5 p.m. now, yet his daily urge to rush to the gymkhana did not arise. He kept roaming around the ashram, thinking about the discourse. When Gurudev passed by with his kamandal, he prostrated himself before him and said, Bapu, your preaching has been of immense benefit to me. Gurudev smiled sweetly, and after placing his loving hand on Sanjeev's head, he proceeded onwards. His companion was agitated by this sudden change in Sanjeev, and he asked, Are you asleep? Don't you realize that it is time for our gymkhana games? To this Sanjeev replied, No, dear friend, now I am fully awake. Till today I was in a sleepy trance, and now I will bid goodbye to card games forever. He kept his word and never indulged in his old vice. On hearing that, Bapu did not like Western attire and called the necktie a nakkatai. He adopted the national dress. Now he passes his nights in the ashram, and the hands that held the cards now play the pious tunes of Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram on the harmonium. Truly, if one surrenders at the feet of Shri Gurudev with true faith, such a one surely receives salvation. Jai Shri Ram.